On today's episode of Locked On Suns, is Deandre Ayton a new man after a couple of weeks with the Bahamian national team? And we debate, we make predictions, we guess over-unders on where the Suns will finish in the standings, offense and defense, and where a bunch of players will finish with their best games of the season. Let's go.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we're back. This is Locked On Phoenix Suns. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Brendon Kleen, a credentialed media member covering the Suns for the past 6 seasons, a writer at Suns.com, and the host of the Just Basketball Show, wherever you get your podcasts. A big thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen on this Wednesday. We're free and available everywhere. Just search Locked On Suns wherever you get podcasts. Hit follow or subscribe. Get this show in your feed every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for the month of August, and we are back to daily starting when September hits. Join nearly 6,000 people on YouTube, a bunch more on audio. Be coming every day or get locked onto the Suns every day. Brendon Dueñas is here. Wednesday episode with Brandon, but as he is here every single week, he's going to lead us through the over-under game later on in the show. We're going to go where the Suns finish offense and defense-wise, where they are in the standings, their wins, and then where a few different players hit single game wise, maybe some season long stuff. Basically just do predictions that way as we get closer to the start of the season. The schedule is coming out on Thursday. There's a lot going on, but let's start with Deandre Ayton, Brandon, joining the Bahamian national team for, I believe, the first time. I don't think he's played games before this week. I don't know if you know, but with Suns teammate Eric Gordon, and they played a qualifying game. So this is not related to the World Cup. This is related to them trying to qualify for the Olympics next summer. And he put up 22 and 10 in 25 minutes and honestly just dominated this game, Brandon. I did not watch the stream live in the moment because it was a blowout game, but I watched the highlights of every bucket that he hit and some of the other moments for him. And it looks like the old Deandre Ayton is back, at least in this context, and that was pretty exciting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love this environment for him. I don't care who he's playing against, like, especially coming off ending the season the way the Suns did. It's just nice for him to get a little bit of a confidence boost, looking like his old self and, dribbling and dunking, like playing aggressive. These are things that we've been asking for him to do for a while. And he has shown flashes at the NBA level. It's not like he's never done this stuff before, but it is off season. So it's like everyone just kind of overreacts in one direction. But I think just the ability to develop some chemistry with Eric Gordon too is pretty huge. Just having another veteran, like I tweeted this, but just having another vet that hasn't been in the locker room, hasn't been around for all this to get like a fresh perspective and get in his ear. Like, I think that's going to be another really underrated aspect of adding someone like Gordon. So I thought he looked good. I like the pump fake and the dunk, the little reverse dunk. We saw one of those against Denver, I think, a couple seasons ago, maybe it was last year. But yeah, if he can add that to his arsenal, that'd be a welcome sight for sure.
I think that is exactly my takeaway too. The part that you said of we've seen him do this before. I think I can sometimes vacillate a little bit too. You mentioned like overreaction in one direction or the other during the offseason. And like, I think it might come across like I'm guilty of that sometimes. I think some of it's just doing a daily podcast and you have to give opinions on one thing or the other, even though that's not your big picture.
There's so many highs and lows throughout the
exactly.
season too, and you're dealing with that on a daily basis. So you react to what you see. So
I appreciate it. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. So, but I think the big picture way that I see Ayton right now is he's not nearly as bad as he was last season. And he's also not as good as we maybe thought he was at U of A, right? He's somewhere in the middle, but I also think he's young, right? So I think it's totally reasonable to expect him to get back to what he did the year they made the finals, even the year after, he had a lot of strong stretches, including that Pelican series, and get back to that. And over the next, year, 2, 3, the rest of this contract, get better than that. And that's all that I think anyone should expect or hope from him at this point. Holding him to a previous standard is ridiculous, but also just being naive and acting like last year is all that he has ever done on the basketball court is also a little ridiculous. So I think watching what he did in this game, where he basically, like you said, he's putting the ball on the ground. He dunked like 5-6 times. He's taken pull-up mid-range jumpers off the dribble. He just looks confident, honestly, is the best way to put it. Like, that's great. And if it takes, a dominant, easy win over Cuba, so be it. I don't really care. That's what the game was. You can't change that. So I feel really good about it, even if I agree with you that, I'm not going to sit here and say this is definitive proof of anything as far as a bounce back goes. It's a good first step.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you nailed it on the whole confidence thing, because that's the main thing with Ayton. We've seen throughout his career, whenever he's confident, he's a different player. And I think if, especially seeing the stuff like Buddy Hield and Gordon both said about him, those, I don't know if you had a chance to watch those post-game interviews they did, but they were hyping him up, saying he makes everything easier. Just like some really cool quotes from a couple of vets that I think, will serve him well. And like I said, just the way that the season ended, the way he's kind of talked about social media, like getting in his own head, like this is a perfect opportunity for him to go out there and kind of forget all about that and, enter the season with a new coach, a better vibe, and just get all that out of your system. So I think, like you said, he's shown it before, and now it's just about getting it consistently. And I think Frank Vogel is going to do all he can to get him back to that 2021 NBA playoffs, Deandre Ayton.
Yeah, and to jump back to the point you made about Gordon, and it sounds like Gordon himself kind of illustrated the value that he's going to have when it comes to that, of just being a fresh voice, being kind of a clean slate guy. But also I think in Houston, I talked a little bit to the guy who does Locked On Rockets when Gordon first signed here, and he was like, I think EG during that rebuild after Chris Paul and James Harden left there he had some public stuff where, like, I think they asked him last year, have you guys improved at, I don't even remember what it was. I think maybe defense or something. And he was like, no. But like not in a bad, like, I hate these guys way, just in like no, this is a young team without a lot of structure. And I'm being honest when I say we have not gotten better, but that type of tough love and kind of brutal honesty is there. Plus Ayton's a lot better than Kevin Porter Jr. or whatever, too. So it's not as if Gordon's dealing with a bunch of rookies again. So I just think that'll help. And I feel like the Vogel part too will be the same, because confidence has been big for him. But I also just think I made the case a few times this offseason of like Mikal being gone, Cam being gone, Monty being gone, Chris being gone. A lot of the guys with that clean slate where even if they were positive a lot of the time, they always treated him like the little brother. They always treated him like somebody who had to be talked to. And I'm sure there's a little bit of relief from Ayton's standpoint of just getting to just go to work, play basketball, not have to be like, okay, we're doing the pep talk thing again. We're doing the smack on the butt thing again. Like, can you all just shut up and leave me alone? And like, this group seems like they'll leave him alone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think just having new voices, whether they're veterans or even guys like Bates Diop or Utah, just whoever it is, it's just kind of like a clean slate in your own environment. So that's why I think firing Monty and moving on from him is probably going to be the best thing. Or if it's going to happen in Phoenix, it's going to happen now because of him getting this clean slate internally. Because you'll see a lot of guys turn their careers around when you get a change of scenery. But if you can change the surroundings of what you already have and build a kind of a new environment from scratch from someone that's already hit highs like Ayton has and some lows as well. I think this is a make it or break it type of year for him. I think if he's going to grow, it's going to be this year. People forget he just turned 25. He's still pretty damn young. So I think that's another thing people got to factor in. Like he's not even in his prime yet. So, being the number one pick, there are different expectations that come with that. But overall, I think, getting some reps in with Gordon is going to be another beneficial factor when it comes to like just the bench unit this season. I think we're going to see some staggering where Ayton plays. Like we talked about this, I think the previous episode, where Gordon and Ayton probably going to be playing together. You can throw Durant in that mix too at times, and you could have Booker and Beal cook with the second unit guys, do some early subs. So I think developing him with some vets like Gordon and KD, who are, like you said, real, but they're also pretty chill and laid back and like lead by example type guys. That's definitely going to help DA.
All right, let's pivot to the game we're playing today, which Brandon prepared for us, and which is, we're going to start with team. Win streak, offense and defense, seeding, team wins, a whole bunch of stuff that'll paint the picture of where we think the Suns will reside this season. Not championship picks, but reasonable guesses here in mid-August as we make our way toward training camp. First, today's show brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is about to kick off, and FanDuel is giving you, frankly, their best giveaway ever, their best promotion ever, because right now when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. So I've said it before, I think the Ravens are going to be the best example I can give here. You want a team with good value for the Super Bowl. You don't want to pick a favorite, but you want to pick a team that you trust to pile up regular season wins. Baltimore does that. They're always deep. They're always young. They replenish through the draft. They kept Lamar Jackson, but they also do have a real shot at the Super Bowl. You can use those bonus bets when they get a victory in the regular season on spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. All the usual stuff you bet on at FanDuel. That will just be bonus bets right back to you to replenish and put back in on the bets where you will actually earn the real money. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Start earning those bonus bets now with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. All right. Let's start off. And how do we want to do this, Brandon? Are you going to give me the over-under and then I pick and then you pick? Are we debating if your over-under, like the mark you put there, is the right number to have? What is the structure here? I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, so we'll start with you going first. I'll read off the line, and you'll make your pick. And then if you disagree with the line or think there's anything up, you could definitely make a little sidebar there. And then from there, I'll make my pick, and then we'll just kind of run through them one by one. So
perfect.
We'll start here with team wins. For this one, actually, I bumped it up a number because I sent you, I think, 51.5. I'm going to go, since this is a Suns podcast, there's, probably a little more higher than some of these other people. So I want you and all the listeners to follow along this exercise, imagining as if you're placing a $100 bet yourself. This is your real money, real stakes on the table here. So I'm going to go 52.5 over under Suns wins.
I think it's a fair line. I'm trying to find what we brought it up once on the show, what FanDuel has. 52.5 is their line. I think that's gone up from what it was.
Yeah, it was 51.5 before.
Okay. So I feel like I'm going to go under. And now I'm regretting starting with this one because now I seem so negative to jump off. But it's really nothing. Again, it's not like a lot of these aren't going to be our predictions about how great this team has the potential to be or what their ceiling is or blah, blah, blah. It is just about the regular season. And so to me, I do think when you factor in that they will not have a big sense of urgency about winning games in the regular season. And I think the West is super stacked. To me, I think we talked about this before. I could definitely see a season very much like last year where only one team in the West has more than 50 wins. And I wouldn't necessarily bet on that to be Phoenix just based on some of the things they need to get figured out, coupled with, Durant, even Beal, maybe Eric Gordon, maybe taking some time to rest or go through injuries or whatever. So a touch under. I might say 50 wins right now. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go slightly over. This one is, I think they will. I agree. Like, they're not going to treat the regular season like they probably like some fans would like them to, in terms of, this team has top tier talent. We should be pushing 60 wins, blah, blah, blah. It's not about that. It's about, the staying steady for the marathon. And I'm going to go 53, like literally right above it. So I think there will be one stretch of the season where they just rattle off a ton of wins. Everyone's healthy and they're just hitting that stride. I don't know when it's going to happen or how long it'll be, but I think that'll be enough to push him over 50. But it's going to be close. I think it's a pretty fair line overall.
Yeah, I'll just say too, I do think that the upside is a lot more likely than the downside for them too. So unless you're talking about a season missed by major injury, which you're never going to factor in too much, like I think it's way more likely they do push 60 than that they're like below 500. So when you factor that in, there's obviously a lot of scenarios where they're way better than that. And maybe that makes you want to put the money on it. So I totally get it.
Yep. All right. We will move on to team win streak. This one is a little tricky because like it kind of ties into what you just said in terms of the upside. Like this team can get hot at any moment and go on a crazy streak, kind of like what Brooklyn did last year with KD and Kyrie before that ship wrecked. But last year the Suns team high was 7-game win streak. So I figured it'd be 8.5. I feel like is a solid over under just because, it's just under single digits or double digits. And it's tough in this conference, in this league to win 10 straight games. So I feel like 9 is a pretty solid amount to predict, but I'll let you take this one away.
I'm going to go over. I think that they will have a stretch where they win double-digit games. I don't think it'll get to, the 64-win season when, 18? That's the record now. Yep. Or maybe they tied the record. Either way, I don't think it gets there, but you need a lot of chemistry and a lot of clutch wins to make that happen, which that team had. But I do think on talent alone, a weak part of the schedule, you could just see if they're healthy, they're going to win a lot of games by 20 points this year. And if you stack up enough of those up, you can really go on a run. So I think I can definitely see a stretch like that.
Yeah, I took the over as well. I think there will be some growing pains early, and like there obviously is going to be some injuries here and there, but I think it'll come kind of towards that back stretch of the, not whenever it's like tank season when teams are like folding it up the chairs and everything, but it'll be somewhere in that like February-ish, like late February range where they just, things start to click and they could just easily go on a pretty solid streak. So I think, like a 12-game win streak or something like that would not shock me. Now we'll flip that and go with losing streak. For this one, last year was 6. Obviously, they also had one that was 5. There's a lot of injuries and some weird stuff that happened there. But for this team, I put 4.5 is the line.
That's surprising that the last year high was only 6. I feel like December and January, if you told me they lost every game, both of those months, I would believe you. But that's just not a lot of games. But at the same time, I have a hard time imagining that they go through a streak worse than that this year. Just thinking, even if they have injuries, I think they're deeper. So I'm going to go under. But now I'm feeling like I'm pigeonholing myself to say they're going to have a long win streak and no long losing streaks, but still only get 50 wins. So
I set you up.
Did.
Yeah, no, I agree. Honestly, like I might need to check the schedule first. Releases on Thursday, and maybe there's a stretch where if there's an injury or something and they have a tough road trip, they could drop 5. I'm also going to go with the under here.
All right, perfect.
Then we'll move on real quick here to offensive rating. So I think 4.5 is a bar I set here, just in terms of what I mean by that is if you say under, they're a top 4 offense. If you say over, they're 5 or above. So I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, I'm going to go over. I think that they're going to be a top 3 offense. I would feel pretty confident saying, if you asked me to put some money on them being just specifically the number 1 offense, I might even throw a little money on that. I think that's obviously going to be their bread and butter. I think everything is set up for them to succeed on that end of the floor. They have the talent, they have the shooting, they have the inside approach. They should be more balanced. They don't have the passing. Maybe that could be one thing, but I think they'll turn defense into offense better than they did last year. So everydayers have heard me ramble about the offense a ton. So I don't think it's a very hard case to make. So I'm going over. I think the line could even be higher, but also it's kind of crazy to set the line much higher than like top 5, because that's really hard to do.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree. I think they'll be a top 3 offense just by showing up. Like, I mean, obviously there's going to be some stuff that they're going to have to work out with, like, who's going to handle the ball more between Beal and Booker, just, distributing the offense, like just chemistry and all that. There's going to be some stuff where I could see them drop into like maybe that 5-6 range, especially with injuries and all that. It's a long season. So that's why I set 4.5, but I think I'm going to go with them finishing in the top 3 as well. So we're in agreement there. And now on the flip side, defensive rating, this one's a little more tricky because there's a lot of things that go into this. But I set this one at 10.5.
There are a lot of things that go into this, and it's honestly, like, I think back to the first year when they got Chris, the year they went to the finals, and they were a top 10 defense. And I remember Jay Crowder said that was their internal goal in training camp, and we all kind of raised our eyebrows, and then they were. And it's pretty, I don't want to say easy to be a top 10 defense in the regular season, but like the Chicago Bulls were one of the best defenses in the league last year, right? And the talent, we know they're not a top 10 defense if you were to just rank the teams, but they were in the regular season because of Caruso, because they played big lineups most of the time. They rebound. I mean, there's some luck that can go into stuff like that. So I'm going to go under. I think it's more like between 10 and 15 in the regular season. But at the same time, I think there's an obvious pathway to them being top 10 from the standpoint of I would expect that Vogel will increase their paint defense, their foul rate, which they were awful. They fouled all the time last year, and their transition defense. And if you're really good at all 3 of those things and you limit the easy points for your opponent, it's kind of hard not to be top 10. So if all that clicks in right away, they really could be top 10, but I guess I expect a little bit of growing pains and, again, the injuries and everything else. So that's where I get to like 12, 13. But like I said, it could happen.
Yeah, and I'm starting to like just talk myself into taking the under here just because I think they have that upside and the size and everything that having veterans. But I think I'm going to go it's just going to be just over. So I think somewhere in that 11 to 13 range is kind of where I have them sitting offensively. Have them in the 3 range. So I think if you're in the top 15 on both ends and a high end on offense, and you're most likely going to win 50 games. But
that's what Denver did. I mean, that's basically, that was last year's Nuggets, right?
Yeah. And I honestly think they have better personnel defensively than Denver does. I think Denver also has the advantage of having that chemistry and familiarity that the Suns don't, which helps a lot in the regular season, especially for defensive numbers, and carried over in the playoffs as well. But yeah, that one's tough. I think they could be a top 10. I mean, they were 7th last year and it did not feel like it. So it's tough to really gauge that stat.
It is. And, I think defense is more than anything what changes the most from the regular season to the playoffs. And so I would imagine the approach will be, let's have our defense locked in. Let's have our, game planning, our schemes, kind of what options are available to us schematically, all set in stone by playoff time. It won't necessarily be a priority to have everything figured out and be so cleaned up by opening night. So I think that'll be a benefit too, and speaks to some of the win-loss stuff. But I think we have one more here.
Yep. Last one will be Western Conference seed. I did 2.5. So they're going to be a top 2 seed or 3 and above.
I'll go. If I'm saying 50 wins, I feel like I'm kind of saying that they'll be the 2 seed behind the Nuggets. So I'll just go ahead and say that. That would be my prediction. A season similar to what Memphis had last year. Obviously not with the suspensions and all that craziness, but just from, very neck and neck with Denver, but over the whole season, just a touch below them in the regular season. And so I'll say they'll be the 2 seed.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. I think it's Denver, Phoenix, and then everyone else in kind of another tier. There's a lot of teams you can make a case for. So we're in agreement there. A bonus one here real quick is, who do you think outside Denver is the biggest threat to the Suns in the playoffs?
I think I might have. Now I'm wondering what I said, because I think I got this as a mailbag question. It's weird because a lot of the teams in the West now are just as scary in the regular season because of their overall talent, but less so in the playoffs to me than they might have been in the past. Like the Clippers and the Mavs specifically, I think they've been kind of I would always have said them during this era because we know switching defenses and small ball were kind of the kryptonite for Phoenix. But those teams, playoff wise, I feel worse because of Kyrie, because Paul George and Kawhi Leonard just can't stay healthy. And now that supporting cast of role players has gotten worse. So I might honestly at this point just say the Warriors. I just think the Warriors are the third best team in the West pretty clearly right now heading into the season. Even though I liked what the Lakers did this offseason, the ticking time bomb of their team construction with LeBron and AD is I'm not ever going to feel great about them over 82 plus games. So I'll say the Warriors, even though matchup wise, I'm not sure they're like the worst matchup ever, but I just think they're the most talented team besides all those other ones. What do you think?
Yeah. It's tough to count out the Warriors, which is what I'm about to do right now. Not entirely count them out, but in terms of this question, I just think that with the age of their core getting up there, and you add Chris Paul in the mix, like who knows how that's going to go. Like, I don't think it's going to end well, honestly, the Chris Paul situation. Like, I think they're going to flip him before the deadline. It's just kind of one of those D'Lo things. But my pick might surprise you a little bit. It's going to be Memphis. I think the addition of Smart, Morant coming back with fresh legs, and if he stays healthy heading in the playoffs, like that defense has a chance to be really special. And the rim pressure from Morant, like that's something the Suns could really struggle containing in a playoff series. So that's a team that has a defensive firepower and shooting, size, switchability. Like I think people are kind of sleeping on Memphis a little bit. So that'd be my pick there.
I like it. Not really an over-under, but that's okay. More fun.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump to player stuff. We talked a little bit about this previously, but we will do, I see Ayton over-under for single game points, rebounds. I see a double-digit line for Durant with assists. We'll jump through all those real quick to close out the show after another quick break. All right, closing things out. We're going to go with some of these over-unders on the player side. So not season, because you're getting into the thousands and the hundreds and weird numbers that we're not familiar with. But I believe, Brandon, all of these are single game over-unders for the highest high that a player reaches this season with points, threes, assists, rebounds, and steals. And I have a feeling you might have a couple more up your sleeve. So I will give it to you. Maybe let's start with points.
Yeah, that is correct. These numbers are just I was kind of winging it here, just making them based off previous career highs, also factoring in that they're going to be playing with each other. So they take touches away from each other naturally. We'll start with points. We don't have to get too in depth with it. We can just go through each one. Just quick fire hits. Devin Booker, 56.5.
I think I said Booker, and I think I said 60 for the highest high of anybody on the team. So I guess that means I'm over on that one. I think that there will be a game. He was getting pretty close at times last year before the Durant trade, so I could easily see it. Right, that stretch when he got healthy before the trade deadline, he was really cooking, and I think a whole season with Durant, similar to that February range when he's comfortable, I could definitely see it.
Yeah, I went over as well because I think I was at 59. Because he always seems to get stuck there. That was my pick. So we're in agreement there. I think it's going to be a game that just comes out of nowhere and he just goes full book mode, and like against the Bulls when he just couldn't miss.
Yeah,
we'll have another one of those this year, hopefully. And now we'll go Kevin Durant, 51.5. His career high is 55.
I think he'll go. I would be curious what his high was last year, but I'll say under for now. I think he'll be a little bit, hopefully not as deferential as he was in the playoffs last year, but still not trying to just be a scorer. I think their defense will rely a lot on him, and I think he'll need to be a facilitator and passer because they don't have a true point guard. So I don't think he'll have to go in score mode so much. I think his focus will not always won't always be on scoring. And so he might not have those explosive nights like we're used to. That's my thought. So I'll go under that.
Yeah, I had a tough one on this one as well, just for those same reasons. Like, we just don't know, like, is it going to be necessary for him to go in those like super microwave scoring modes? Like, there could be a game or two here or there, but I'm going to go under. I think he'll flirt with 50 a couple times, but could be one of those games where he gets taken out with like 6 minutes left in the fourth because they're up by 15 or something. So I'm going to go under, but I do think he'll definitely have a chance at 50 this year, even if he's not even really trying to do it, honestly.
Yeah. His high last year was 45, just for the audience.
Yep. All righty. Bradley Beal, his career high is 60, 10 less than Booker's, and still pretty damn impressive. Over under for him, I just put 49.5. Is he going to drop a 50 bomb or not? That's the real question here.
I'm going to go no. I think if anything, you would say if Booker has to miss time, that could be when it happens. The ball's going to be in his hands even more at that point and everything. But I think Beal's approach this season will be very, very kind of sacrifice, defer, adjust, figure things out, get my feet wet, get comfortable. So there will be some big nights, but I don't know about that big.
Yeah, I agree. I want to do a hot take and just say, he's going for 60 again, but I agree. Realistically, I think he'll have a few 40-point games, but overall he's not. These three kind of drag each other down in a sense in terms of like the over-unders would probably be a little bit higher if they weren't all on the same team. But there will be games where they're going to be down one or two of those guys. Hopefully not a lot of them, but it's going to happen. So now
honestly, a depressing one to do, which I wouldn't even want to, is games played for all these guys.
Oh man. Yeah.
I mean, not going to think about that's that. Like just because it's kind of maybe the most important one, right? More than everything.
Maybe like a total to guess. Like all three of them combined in one or something.
Yeah.
All right. And last one on points, we'll just do Deandre Ayton, career high 35. I put 29.5, basically the same as Beal in terms of, is he going to drop 30 or more in a game or not?
I'm going to go under. I think it's just not going to be there for him. Even if I think he'll have a little bit of a bounce back season and be pretty productive and consistent and effective and valuable, I don't know if the scoring particularly will be there.
I'll go over. I think there'll be a game where just defenses are so overcommitted to the big three that he's going to get so many easy looks, and we know he's a great finisher. So I could see it happening against a team that just where he gets hot right off the bat and just carries that momentum over. Yeah,
I think there's going to be some games where he could just get 8 or 10 points in transition if he's running the floor.
Yeah,
I think that's one area that they played so slow for so long in the past that he just didn't really get those opportunities. But you could easily see if they're just really locked down on defense one night, he just cherry picks down there.
Yeah, no more Chris Paul walking the ball down the court every other possession. So that'll help with that, at least with the pace.
Exactly.
Now we'll do for threes, 3-pointers made. I just kind of did a straight line across the board for 4 of their best shooters. I just did 7.5. Like, are these guys going to hit 8 threes or more? And we can run through. I'll just run through all 4 of the guys, and you can go one by one. Eric Gordon, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Utah Watanabe.
As much as I love the idea of Book getting over 6 in the regular season, I don't think it happens. It's just a curse. It's just impossible. The basketball gods have made their decision, and it's not going to happen. So I'll go under for him. Gordon, I'm going to go under. I don't know if the volume will be there. I don't know if the minutes will be there. Beal, I'll go over. And then Watanabe, I'll go. Sure, I'll go over. Screw it. I think there will be games a lot of times this year where a role player goes crazy from deep. So why not him?
Yeah. I think him and Damian Lee, like, I don't know how much Lee's even going to play, but those guys are going to get some just wide open shots where there's not someone within a 5-mile radius of them. So that's that's a tough one. But yeah, I agree with Booker's under. I just he definitely has it in him, but there's that regular season curse. With Gordon, I'll take the over on that. I think there's going to be a game where, especially with just the lack of bench scoring and creation, like if one of the big three is down, like he's going to need to step up. So I could see him having one of those nights. Same with Utah. I think I predicted last time he's going to hit 9+ threes in a game at one point, and it's going to be beautiful. Beal, I will go over as well, just due to the open looks and volume. So pretty high on the 3-point shooting this year. I think they're just between the offensive firepower and open looks, like these guys are going to pop off. So now we'll go with.
Do you have any secret ones for this one that you didn't give me ahead of time?
No. Oh yes, these are. Okay. There's two of them actually. All right. So this one, sticking with the Ayton theme, we're gonna do Deandre Ayton dunks. He had 110 last year in 67 games. That is 1.64 dunks per game. In 21-22, he had 95 dunks in 58 games, which is 1.63. So he's had pretty much identical. 1.6 is kind of the number there. So I'm going to just round up, say 1.65. Is he going to break that threshold?
I'll go over. Yeah, I think he'll get at least 2 a game this year. I think even more of his shots, he'll get even more shots around the basket, I would assume, and whether those are in transition or just with the open looks, I think he'll be in the dunker spot more than he has been in the past, and a lot of that stuff. So I'll go over. I think, and maybe he'll get used to smacking his hand down on the rim playing with the Bahamas team, because that seems to be the case right now.
Yeah, I should have made the line a little bit higher there in hindsight, especially with the Bahamas game, like in recent memory. So yeah, I'll go with the over as well. I think just the open looks he's going to get, and I think hopefully he'll have the mindset where he's trying to kind of send a message the entire season to Monty.
Maybe the Amari Stoudemire Ring of Honor ceremony sparks something in him. Maybe the highlight reel that they'll play is like, oh yeah, that's how you do it.
Yeah. Can we please get Amari to just coach him up and just, I would love that.
See what his day rates are for some coaching during the time he's in town for the ceremony. Hey, we know you're doing the whole, it's great. We'll be there to celebrate you, but could you also just do a couple hours in the gym? I'm down. Yeah. Whatever it costs, Tim Duncan will pay it.
Exactly. If Tim Duncan can be a de facto coach over there in San Antonio, we could use Amari and Nash over here. Like, come on.
Exactly.
Actually, I don't know about Nash anymore. I'm just kidding. All right, the other wild
not
card
with
here
KD, unfortunately.
True. Another wild card that you were not prepared for: bowl appearances. So he had 70 last year with the Magic, and year before he had 14 with Denver. So I kind of went a little bit in between, and I put the over-under line at 50 appearances. That doesn't mean he's going to play 10+ minutes. It means just checking in the game for more than 1 second. So over-under 50.
I will go under, but I see him somewhat like the best case scenario to me with him is somewhat of a specialist. Big lineups, opponents that you want to play a little bigger against, maybe opponents where you want to spread them out, spread their defense out. I think against Denver, he could be useful, for instance. I think against the Grizzlies, potentially, teams like that. But overall, I don't expect him to be in the regular rotation at all. So I'll go under that number.
Yeah, I'll go slightly over, just because I think there will be a few blowouts. There's going to be some garbage time, injuries, whatever. Like he'll sneak into the rotation and hopefully have some good stretches. Ish Wainwright had 60. All right, let's hear it.
Oh wow, Ish Wainwright had 60. No, my line for you is social Bleacher Report posts per appearance. So if you're saying he plays like 52 games or something, I'm going to go, if he plays 52 games, even if he just plays 50 right on the line you had, I'm going to go that the post number would be 100. So 2 posts per appearance. What do you think? How are we looking there?
It seems about right. Depends on how the media interns are feeling, how zesty they are. I think he'll be right in that range, though. I think, the coverage he gets is unlike anything I've seen. The graphics he appears on, like, give his PR team a raise. Like they're doing
Big
a great
Five
job over there
here in Phoenix.
Yep.
The 4 guys and Bowl.
I think, I'd probably go over on that one.
All right, let's close out. We don't have time to get to assists or steals, but the rebound one is in a similar vein and closes the circle on the show. So,
yep. So rebounds, I only put Ayton because I think that's really the only one that kind of matters in terms of over under stuff. 19 and a half. Is he going to hit the 20 club this season?
I don't think he has a 20 rebound game, does he?
He does. Okay. I believe his career high is exactly 20.
21. I just
20,
found it.
21. Yeah. It was
the past 2 years.
A couple years ago.
He did it.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay. Huh. Well, then I'll definitely go over. Part of me I was feeling over and I was like, do I really want to do that if he's never actually done it before? But he has done it before. He did it against Sacramento early in the 21-22 season, right before he got hurt and Kaminsky took over for him. And then early last season, November 2022, he did it against Utah, which was that awesome 1-point game that the Suns won over the Jazz. He went for 29 and 21. So
that was one of my favorite regular season games. That was
both of them. Game. Remember, they lost one and they won the other one, and they were both like great. And we were all like, "Damn, the Jazz are real." So yeah, I'll go over for sure though with that stat. I think the rebounding stuff, that's just a no questions asked for him this year. It always kind of has been, but I think it's one of the things that's just gonna have to happen. So he'll at least have some games where it's super high, even if maybe it's not consistent.
Yeah, no, I'll go over as well, just because of all of what you just said, and then also him probably trying to prove a point to the people that he's not happy with and make a little bit of a statement. So I'm here for it. I'm here for Deandre Ayton with a chip on his shoulder and coming out swinging. It's just about staying consistent, and I think Vogel can do a good job of getting the most out of him, hopefully. So I'll go over as well. Why not? I think I'll have a 22 rebound game at some point. Let's just go with that.
I'll say he'll have a 25 rebound game. Why not?
Okay.
I just think you don't want Kevin Durant to have to worry about rebounding. You don't want to have to play big just to make his life easier, Ayton's life easier. You just have to be able to say that's your job. Like, go do it. And it's not always been there for him. I think that is one legitimate criticism, that he does not always box out. He does not always pursue balls the right way. He doesn't always play athletically and aggressively enough to get them. But, that's one of the things that I'm hoping turns around. So I'll be optimistic about it. Why not? All right. That'll wrap us up, though. Appreciate everybody for listening. We'll close out the week with Aaron Edwards on Friday, talking schedule. We know the in-season tournament schedule. We'll have the full regular season schedule to close things out for the week. Next week, we have World Cup stuff starting, which I guess doesn't super apply to the Suns. We'll keep an eye on the Bahamas. More stuff coming as we get closer to camp, as I keep saying. So hit follow or subscribe. Get this show in your feed Monday, Wednesday, Friday through the rest of the month, and daily beyond that. And I will talk to you guys on Friday.